everybody. Welcome back to a new episode of Cakes Over Coffee. Again, I've got my LSE mug supporting my brothers in arms lockdown in London. These are quick hit series on solutions to challenges that we're all facing during the coronavirus. With me is Darren Glinster with Material Exchange, the CEO for Material Exchange. And we're going to zero in on solutions for designers, developers, material teams, and sourcing teams around materials. Right now, Darren, we've heard from many of our brand partners. Obviously, offices are closed, headquarters are closed, even regional outposts are closed. So people are working from home. They're doing Zoom video like this to talk to each other. But what we found is Outlook and Excel and tools like that were functional while we were in the office are not as functional because the workflow is disjointed. And we've heard from several brands using Material Exchange that it actually is not just making it functional. They're actually succeeding and thriving in this environment because of the ability to collaborate and look at swatch books that are currently locked up in their offices. They can look at them online digitally. So maybe just quickly explain what this platform is and who's using it and why.
Thanks, Andy, and thank you, everyone. So Material Exchange is a digital platform that connects brands, whether it be footwear brands or apparel brands or any kind of brand in fashion, product creation, with their suppliers. And in essence, what it does is it digitizes the data that designers and sourcing people would need from a brand side to work with their suppliers. We have spent the last year and a half, almost 2 years, defining materials, defining them in a digital way to give a standard way of finding and searching for materials. So if you're a sourcing person, you can search through, find a leather by any number of attributes. We've actually worked with the GS1, the Global Standards Organization, to create standards for the industry. And we also have digital representations of materials in 2D scans for sourcing and more for 3D for design. And we've built the platform with the industry in mind. We built it for the long-term vision of everyone having access to a shared platform, not having to develop your own platform, but work with industry thought leaders like the FDRA and others in the industry to make something that everyone can use and benefit from.
Great. So what we're talking about is in the physical world, we have swatch books that suppliers send us with their material offerings. We flip through it, but the challenge was it was limited in you can see the material and you can see some code that the supplier uses to identify it, but there was no specs with it. So, we were having to email back and forth on specific spec sheets and things like that. But in this environment, we don't even have the physical swatch books anymore. They're locked up in an office somewhere. So we see currently some people are trying to take pictures and send it across Outlook. Then the spec sheet's not attached. Then they got to email them back to get the spec sheet. So what you're saying is there's an image for that material with the spec sheet already loaded in. And I think you told me earlier, right now it's free for brands to get into this platform, search for materials by type, by color, by pattern, and be able to see exactly what you would with a physical swatch book digitally, remotely from anyone's basement. Pick those things, collaborate with other people on your team for the next season, while at the same time your sourcing and material teams see the spec sheets to see if it's going to execute. And they're like, basically you're saying it reduces the errors that we're going to see right now as people work remotely.
Yeah. So at the core of Material Exchange is obviously a material. And then we have a representation of that material as an image or as a 3D file. We have the spec sheets, as you said. But additionally, we have other things. For example, we have testing reports and sustainability information about materials in one central location. So that means that you can, as a brand, go in, find a material, look at it, look at the profile of the company. We've actually standardized that as well with the help of the FDRA to build a standard profile for each supplier. And you're getting access to a digital form of a book. So the materials there are searchable. We have them browsable by attributes. You can say, for example, I want to see a supplier that's based in China with a leather working group badge of gold and above, and then you can find those suppliers. And then once you're connected with those suppliers, they may not actually be the ones you already work with, or they could. You can actually request materials that may be exclusive to you, or you can look at materials that are public. But the important thing is that the relationship is digital. It means that during this time, it doesn't break. It means that you can reach out, you can message your suppliers. And we're even looking at now of building video capabilities in the platform to help facilitate face-to-face.
Yeah, I think it's important to note we don't know how long this remote work is going to happen. We don't know if it's going to be weeks or months. We also don't know what budgets we're going to have for travel after we emerge from this crisis globally. I think interactions like what Darren, you and I are doing right now are going to be more norm, where you have meetings over Zoom or over some kind of digital outlet. And so as we look at all that stuff, I think it's even more critical to have a platform like Material Exchange, where you got all the information centralized, the images. It allows all your teams to sit on the same platform and see what everybody's working on and collaborate within it. Because ultimately, Outlook and Excel again, it has worked, but in this environment, it is not working like it was, I think, because of workflows. They're not synchronized like they once were. And I think Material Exchange is really key to synchronizing those workflows. And we've heard feedback from brands using it right now that it is working to synchronize those workflows. Tell me a little bit more about the supplier identification or the supplier profile piece, because another key thing that's going to happen as we get out of this are, just as people are looking to diversify their sourcing locations, they're going to start looking to diversify their material supplier locations, because we saw there was as China shut down, the material suppliers for like cotton, textiles, certain accessories couldn't get to Cambodia factories or could not get to Vietnam factories. And so people who had suppliers with multiple offices in different locations were okay, but there's still a huge reliance on China. So as people look beyond China to see, how can I just make sure I have a plan B or a plan C? What does that profile allow for people to find new suppliers in that way?
Yeah, so our system, you can go in and actually find all the materials that are public. So as I mentioned, there's materials that are brand exclusive, and then there are materials that are public. So these are effectively the materials that the supplier is happy for the world to see, and actually it's their way of promoting themselves. So you can go in and you can find a material you're looking for. You can check its testing capable, its testing certificates that it has associated. But then you can also go in to look at this, the profile of the vendor, and then you can see their capacity, where their factory is located, and then you can determine if they meet your needs. So we've actually had some really interesting things happen in the last few weeks. So actually we've been working with one brand to introduce them to 50 new sustainable suppliers that are outside of China. And these are suppliers that they didn't work with before. Now they have a chance of digitally connecting with them. Of course, they've got no chance of meeting them face to face,
Right.
but they have a chance to actually vet them, check them, see their materials digitally, and then build a relationship. And in the future, partly go back to the face-to-face process. But as you said, I don't think that's ever going to be the same again. I think this is probably the shifting point in this industry.
Yeah. And to that point, maybe talk really quickly about the process for onboarding, because I know, as you said, it's free for brands. There's a 3-month deal for suppliers right now to get ramped up. But I guess the process is we have this remoteness. There's an urgency if you want to make sure that your designers and developers see these digital assets and these kind of digitizing these material swatch books you have sitting in your library right now. They need to move pretty quickly to start getting their core suppliers in. So how does that work? Do you have a team in China that's helping do this, or elsewhere? What's the process?
Yeah, our focus has been quite a bit on China. We are moving into other territories. The fact that our service is digital, it doesn't prevent us from working with suppliers anywhere in the world. but we have a 5-person team who are based in Dongguan, and they're actually focusing on meeting suppliers face to face. And what's really interesting is that I hear on a daily basis the kind of pulse of how the suppliers are feeling, and they're feeling very vulnerable at the moment. So we've actually tried to help the industry by saying for the next 3 months, the suppliers can come on the system for free. We'll actually even help them digitize materials, and we're there to support. And we've seen that I mean, from our perspective, the uptick of suppliers coming to us has been quite dramatic. And on the existing suppliers we have in our system, we've seen the number of materials uploaded rise very dramatically. So it may seem a little complicated at first in principle to digitize materials, but our team is there to show you that it's not as complicated as you think. You know, at the lowest level, you can use a good flatbed scanner to scan a material. You can upload it. We have a spreadsheet you fill in for the specs, and then you're ready to go. You start connecting with brands.
Yeah. So is there, as a brand who wants to sign up, they come to you or your team and they say, we're ready to do this. So what you're saying is the fear that they would have to really push their suppliers to do this is no longer there. The suppliers want to actually digitize because they know this is a new environment. So that's easier. But once the brand gives you who the suppliers are, you guys can quickly help those suppliers get into the system and manage it, and upload all that stuff for them, right? The brands just need to be willing to make an ask. Is that basically the
Yeah,
way?
yeah. I think that there's two aspects here. You've got suppliers that have existing relationships, and they obviously want to sustain those relationships. They want to work with brands who they work with, so they like to hear guidance from the brands to say, look, we're going to try this. It's not going to cost you anything. We're going to work with Material Exchange to onboard you. That makes our lives easier. We need to go to each supplier as if effectively it's a cold call, and then say, okay, come to Material Exchange. But what's been really interesting is that we've in the last week, we've added close to 40 new suppliers who are not working with the brands that we have in Material Exchange at the moment, but are working with the big guys, like, you know, the really big brands. They're working on the sportswear brands like Adidas and Nike, and they're coming to us now saying that we would like to be in. And also we're being approached more and more by factories who are working on behalf of the brands to have their suppliers come in. And that is now every day we're getting factories reach out to us. And then we're also getting the agents who are completely stuck at the moment because they can't represent the suppliers they work with and they can't reach the brands. So now they're coming to us, and we actually have kind of accelerated building an agent role in our system where they can represent suppliers on behalf of those companies and show materials to brands. So we're not trying to replace anyone here. We're trying to help the industry keep moving. And that was always our goal, but now it's been accelerated.
Yeah, we always said it was a movement when we were doing this, right? It was not a business, it was a movement that we had. But I think it's important that people forget a lot of shoes that flow into the US are price point shoes, wholesale shoes, and the factories do make the choices on materials, or the agents make it on behalf of an importer. So having that ability for the factories to be in the system as well and make those decisions means that even wholesalers, not just brands that have complete control over supply chains, have the ability to use this effectively and efficiently. And special with remote workflows, this is not going away anytime soon. My fear is, Darren, that it's even more urgent than what we're talking about today, because if we see a continued economic crisis, you may see layoffs in our industry, God forbid. But if that's the case, then you're working with less individuals who still have to execute the same amount plus work on top of picking up the slack somewhere else. And you simply cannot do that with existing tools. But you could have some help through Material Exchange and helping be able to take on more workload and do more with that. So people who are interested in Material Exchange, you can Google Material Exchange. Darren Glenster, CEO of Material Exchange, is on LinkedIn. You can contact me and I can connect you with Darren. If you've not done a demo, do a demo, ask for a demo. But this is a key solution that FDRA sees for our industry. We started working on this years ago because we were trying to prepare for the future, and the future is now. Digital is now for all of us. Darren, before I let you go, this is Kicks Over Coffee. So we talked about the kicks. Now I got to talk about the coffee. I myself, as people probably are bored about hearing this, but I'm a huge coffee fan. I have every device known to man to make coffee. From espresso machine to just a drip coffee to a pour over to a press. I have everything. Are you a big coffee fan? Are you a coffee snob? Are you an accelerated coffee fan? What do you have? What do you drink?
I'm going to disappoint you. I've never actually even tried coffee in my life.
I'm speechless. Maybe
So
because I'm so jacked up on caffeine right now. Maybe that's why I'm speechless.
if you can have kicks over coffee and tea, then
There you go. The British version. There you go. Kicks
yeah.
and tea.
Sorry.
All right. No worries at all. Dan, thank you so much for what you're doing. And folks, I hope you take advantage of this offer where, as Darren said, it's free for brands, free for 3 months for suppliers. If you want to solve your challenges right now, you got to act very quickly. The faster you act and get into the system, the faster your teams can find that connectivity and workflow synchronization that we saw when we were in offices, but who knows how long we're in this space. But anyway, Darren, thank you very much. Appreciate it.
No, my pleasure. Thank you.
And until next time, keep wearing kicks, keep drinking coffee or tea. Thank you.